We're joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram Managing Editor Muhammad Azzeddin. Mr. Muhammad, thank you so much for joining us on Q News. And first off, how does Egypt's high-level participation in Russia's Victory Day celebration enhance the bilateral relations of both countries?
Thank you so much for having me on Q News. Of course, extending the invitation from Putin to the Egyptian President Sisi and his keenness on the Egyptian participation in this very significant ceremony that symbolizes the Russian victory means uh, that there is a lot of appreciation to the Egyptian role and the keenness on keeping strong relations between the two sides. Of course, there is a strategic partnership signed into in 2018 between Egypt and Russia, and ever since, and even before, when President Sisi assumed office, there has been a lot of development in the relations between the two leaders, especially that they are tied and they share a military common background, and they have the same views regarding the global challenges. So the development in the Russian-Egyptian relations during the past 10 years dates back to the strong relations between the two leaders and the Egyptian keenness to be a state of peace in the region that does not interfere in other states' affairs, and it wants a balanced relations with all parties. And there is also a lot of Russian investments and they have a lot of shares in different mega projects being carried out in Egypt, and consequently there is a big role for the tourism companies and contractors to gain economic benefits from tourism, in addition also to exchanging different views on different matters, whether to cool down the tensions in the region
Yes,
and
sir.
in
Allow
the
me to interrupt here because I would like to build on this point specifically. Regarding the current summit taking place between the leaders of Russia and Egypt, what are the key issues that they will focus on?
they focused they focused on the peace process in the region and the Middle East, in addition to reducing the tensions in the areas of conflict. And there has been also keenness on strengthening the economic relations, and in a few days, from 12 to 14 May, there will be a meeting for senior officials from Egypt and Russia to discuss the economic affairs, and there is a special interest going to the investment and trade exchange, especially in the fields of energy and heavy transport, in addition to trade and industrial sectors. Russia is one of the states where Egypt imports its different needs, in addition to the increasing exports, Egyptian exports to the Russian markets. Moreover, there are a lot of Russian investments, whether in the free zones or direct investments in Egyptian companies, and these relations will even witness further development on the investment level uh, in the upcoming years. And I expect this good meeting will be very fruitful and will reflect positively on the relations, whether at the political level or the economic and investment levels. In addition to the Egyptian participation in different economic alliances that work to reduce the effects of the geopolitical conflicts on the global economies.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Sorry for cutting in, but by building on what you said, in light of the partnerships between Egypt and Russia you've just mentioned, the question here is in what ways can Egypt leverage its partnership with Russia to benefit Africa?
This is a very important question. As stated by the Russian president himself and Egyptian senior officials dealing directly with Russia, Egypt is the first state to receive Russian investments, and Egypt and Russia both are working to increase these investments in addition to benefiting from the geographic location of Egypt and the good relations between the Egyptian Foreign Affairs and Russia, as well as the political bearing of President Sisi. The Russian side worked to employ these Egyptian benefits to serve and expand its activity in Africa and increase its investments also in Egypt. Egypt is one of the forefront states to receive foreign direct investment in the African continent, and Russia has a really big share of these investments, and they're working to increase them in the near future, and therefore Egypt is a gateway for the Russian investments to the African continent and the Middle East region. There is a lot of development to the Russian industries, in addition to the competitive factor, which is the price, and the non-political intervention in any economic decisions, whether in the Middle East or in Africa, and therefore the Russian investments is a winning deal to both sides, Egypt and Russia. In addition, Egypt will be the real gateway for the economic breakthrough in Africa.
Now, sir, back to the significance of the Victory Day. If you can expand on the historical importance of Victory Day for Russia and also the key messages President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi intends to communicate by attending.
Of course, Victory Day is a historic day for Russia and also for the entire world. There was the victory against Nazi Germany in the Second World War, where the Russians lost around 27 million citizens, between killed and injured. And this is a victory and a return for the Russian spirit, holding on to military power and the challenge that it was impossible to defeat Germany, but they did the impossible and stopped the most intensive war in the world. So that day symbolizes pride and victory for Russia. Of course, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is a fighter and a man of an army, and he's well aware of the significance of these victory days that reflect the military victory. So his keenness and his participation to attend is a keenness to strengthen the Russian-Egyptian relations, and that there are similar views regarding most issues, if not all, whether related to Russia or Egypt. In addition to the mutual respect between the two leaders, and we wouldn't miss that there is a military group of Egyptian soldiers participated in the victory crossing with the participating task forces, which also strengthen the relations between Egypt and Russia, and the armed forces personnel were very keen to attend, and they greeted President Putin, and he did to, in the 80th anniversary of the Victory Day, which honors the Egyptian fighter and the Egyptian armed forces, who were keen to always attend such important events in proceedings. Also, this participation was, or this invite was not extended to all world leaders. It was only a limited group of leaders, and this group included the Egyptian president, which reflects the strong ties connecting the two countries, and that they are not based on only common interests, but it is based on respect and strong relations between the two leaders and between the two countries. It is a huge event, and the Egyptian participation is highly significant, indicating the strong relations. And
Muhammad Azzuddin, thank you so much for joining us here on Q News and for all the insights.